Kishore Mahbubani, The New Asian Hemisphere, The Irresistible Shift of Global Power to the East. Discover the perspectives and insights of The New Asian Hemisphere, The Irresistible Shift of Global Power to the East, by Kishore Mahbubani, which explores Asia's unprecedented economic ascent and the challenges it poses to traditional Western dominance. This compelling book discusses Asia's adoption of free market economics, science and technology, meritocracy, pragmatism, a culture of peace, rule of law, and education as drivers of its growth. Mahbubani also critiques the West's reluctance to adapt to change and examines possible scenarios that may come to pass: the march to modernity, the retreat into fortresses, and the triumph of the West. By diving into the summary of this thought-provoking book, you'll gain a deeper understanding of Asia's incredible transformation and what it means for the global balance of power.
Asia's rise and Western attitudes. The rise of Asia's economic power is transforming the world, but Western nations are slow to applaud and embrace the democratization of the human spirit and modernity that come with it. Instead, they cling to outdated ideologies and narrow attitudes that hinder progress. This resistance to change will lead to one of three scenarios, including the retreat into fortresses and the potential triumph of the West. The book challenges readers to rethink their attitudes towards Asia's economic power and embrace a more open, forward-thinking approach. The Resurgence of Asia. The resurgence of Asia is not a return to ancient wisdom, but rather a result of embracing the principles that led to the West's prosperity. These include free market economics, science and technology, meritocracy, pragmatism, a culture of peace, the rule of law, and education. For centuries, Asia was the dominant economic force until the Industrial Revolution shifted the balance to the West. However, Asia is now experiencing a resurgence, and this is not due to a revival of ancient wisdom, as many might think. Instead, it has embraced the fundamental principles that led to the West's prosperity: free market economics, science and technology, meritocracy, pragmatism, a culture of peace, the rule of law, and education. China, for instance, is a living laboratory for comparing communism versus free market economics. Chairman Mao's Great Leap Forward led to a backward economy, while market freedom has led to tenfold increases in annual income for many Chinese households. The Chinese embrace globalization as it frees them from poverty and agricultural drudgery. Asian governments are now investing heavily in science and technology, and soon 9 out of 10 science and engineering PhD students may come from Asia. India's institutes of technology are now more selective than Harvard and MIT. Also, meritocracy is replacing the old feudal traditions that had suppressed the lower classes for centuries. India and China are seeing a shift towards equal opportunities for all classes of society. The pragmatic approach of Japanese leadership, adopting the best practices of the West, brought Japan to modernization before the rest of Asia. Similarly, pragmatism played a significant role in China's emergence from poverty. Additionally, Asia has remained largely peaceful since the end of the Vietnam War, and it is following the West into a culture of peace. The rule of law is new and somewhat alien in Asia. However, it is recognized as necessary for a modern economy. China is passing and enforcing laws, recognizing the need for laws to protect its new wealthy class from political power. Even though the politically well-connected act as though they are above the law, most Asian states are now inclining towards the rule of law. Overall, education has been instrumental in Asia's resurgence. The number of Asian students training abroad is increasing, and many are returning home to make a difference. Asians recognize that a good education can open doors to great achievements. In conclusion, Asia's resurgence is not a return to ancient wisdom but rather a result of embracing the principles that led to the West's prosperity. These principles include free market economics, science and technology, meritocracy, pragmatism, a culture of peace, the rule of law, and education. Asian governments have recognized the importance of these principles and are investing heavily to follow in the footsteps of the West. The fallacy of Western superiority. The decline of Western influence in the 21st century signals a shift in the world order, with Asia's rise as a key player. The post-World War II power balance no longer reflects today's economic and political distribution, yet the West still clings to its outdated perceptions. Westerners cannot grasp the reality that freedom means different things to different cultures, nor do they acknowledge the shortcomings of their own values. The West's declining moral prestige in countries like India demonstrates the need for a new world order in which non-Western societies take an equal role as shapers of history. The West's global shortcomings. The West is self-assured in handling domestic affairs, but ineffective in dealing with global issues. The invasion of Iraq damaged international law and Middle East peace initiatives. Western nations shift the burden of addressing climate change to emerging Asian economies, causing tension. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty did not effectively control the creation of new nuclear weapons, with the US and Russia stockpiling warheads. The West views Iran as oppressed and sanctions the country, but opening diplomatic relations could dispel conflict and fear. The book highlights how the West's confidence blinds it to critical global issues it needs to solve cooperatively. The future of global leadership. The world needs to shift from global government to global governance to achieve a new world order that prioritizes democracy and social justice. Only 4 areas qualify for leadership: the US, the EU, China, and India. However, each region faces significant obstacles that hinder their ability to lead. The West needs to embrace pragmatism and prioritize values over ideology to truly address the challenges ahead.
In conclusion, The New Asian Hemisphere, The Irresistible Shift of Global Power to the East, highlights the factors contributing to Asia's rapid rise and the significant challenges this presents to the traditional power of the West. The book outlines potential scenarios as a result of these shifts and urges the West to embrace pragmatism and adapt to the evolving global landscape. Mahbubani asserts that the West's moral superiority has diminished, and it needs to re-evaluate its position and mindset in the face of Asia's continued growth. By understanding Asia's adoption of key drivers, readers will gain valuable insight into the ongoing transformation of the global balance of power and what it means for the future of both the East and the West.